Morning. Good day. Today's a good day. February 12th. Great day. Today's such a good day. I didn't even have to use my AK. I mean, I didn't have to. But, you know. Anyway, get me on the court, I'm trouble. Fucked around last week, got a triple-double. I keep track of assists in backyard basketball games. That AK, dog. Got that AK. That cherry AK. Got two of the greatest albums ever written. I'm not kidding when I say that. I honestly think these are two of the greatest albums ever. Especially both of them. They're perfect records. The first one I'm going to do is the more obscure one. Secret Cheifs 3, Book M. My favorite record of theirs. All their records are good. It's the mid-90s Mr. Bungle people. And it's just like exploring crazy Middle Eastern surf rock mixed with metal, mixed with like all the instrumental weirdness that's on Mr. Bungle records that I kind of wish they pursued further. I think are kind of reined in by the Patton having this great operatic voice. The music doesn't get to be as sophisticated as it sounds like it wants to be sometimes. To my ear, this is like, holy shit. This is like exactly what I wanted Mr. Bungle to be doing. It's like playing whatever, just combining all these genres wildly and just giving you these instrumental soundscapes of Middle Eastern folk, Persian, Indian folk, mixed with a bunch of weird ideas, like Archimedean, pre-Archimedean, like these ancient ideas, like ancient Greek, ancient India, ancient Middle Eastern. They're trying to create this sacred, old, kind of forgotten music, and they're giving it to you in this really precise way, but they're also giving you these bass synths that are like breakcore, dirty drum things, in addition to having like hand percussion, hand cymbals, like the actual, those ones. They actually use those ones. Like, there's every instrument on this that I can think of. Banjo, oud, sitar, guitars. I can't tell what's treated guitar, what's oud, what's sitar. Lots of it sounds sitar-y to me, including when they play violin. And then sometimes they'll play a lick and I'll be like, oh no, that was a violin. There's a treated violin. They send everything through these like car wash of Pro Tools, so you don't know what instrument is what, and then do an instrument flip, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's like, oh, now we're on this side of it. I didn't even know that polyrhythm existed as the shadow of if you bent this thing this way, then you could play this figure up this. It's crazy. The precision on this album. This is one of the best albums ever. It's my favorite album by one of my favorite bands. Anyway. Instruments. Trey Spruance, the guy from Mr. Bungle, the lead guitar player, plays electric guitar, bass guitar, baritone guitar, microtonal guitar, 12-string guitar, synth guitar, Pythagorean guitar, keyboards, electric piano, acoustic piano, tack piano, clavinet, organ, celesta, percussion, dumbeck, shaker, tambourine, glockenspiel, doff, saunter, rebab, banjo, mandolin, zither, tar, cumbius, zaz, carillon, dulcimer, autoharp, trumpet, shang, various synthesizers, Foley sound effects, electroacoustic treatment, vocals, power drill, harp, vibraphone, tabla, sarangi. Now these are other. Anyway, he played the first. He played all of those. Also on this record is people that he didn't play violin. He has a great violinist playing violin. He played. Anyway, they have tablas. They have great saxophone. Other guitarists, other percussionists, other drummers, other vocalists. There's frame drum, hammer, dulcimer, conjura, cymbal, tubular bell, shout. Mike Oldfield, was it? The thing that the Halloweens are up off of? Um, yeah, every instrument. You get every instrument. And you get these really precise things that sound, to my ear, kind of like new Mahavishnu Orchestra music. Mahavishnu Orchestra is one of my favorite bands ever. Mr. Bungle is also one of my favorite bands ever. The fact that Mr. Bungle started a jazz ancient folk fusion group where they're based on all this Pythagorean ancient theorems, where they're doing these really precise compositions and these beautiful solos. It's like, thank God that this record exists. This is so good. You should listen to this record right now. Book M, my favorite record that they've recorded. They have so many good records. They're one of the great bands. Nobody gives a shit. Anyway, Nights of Dance are the first song. And there's it's like Persian surf folk mixed with like Japanese gamelan mixed with, it's like all these sacred things combined into this really sophisticated, melodically, rhythmically, just really good players playing really tight compositions well, like classical level compositions. It's like they're making new classical jazz fusion music, informed also by metal, informed also by like ugly EDM, like IDM dubstep type stuff, and avant noise stuff. But always maintaining this like sacred melody, sacred rhythms of these Indian Middle Eastern flavors that you get. Like when you're in a taxi and you got like a Pakistani dude playing like his music, it sounds like that. But if that was played by like genius, like masters of their instrument, but it sounds like that. It sounds like whatever that those people are listening to. And that's a power move, by the way. Shout to taxi drivers that loudly play weird Persian stuff in their taxi. I appreciate it. But this sounds like that, kind of. But it sounds like that if it was John McLaughlin playing the guitar, if it was fucking if it was Jimi Hendrix playing a violin. Like, it just doesn't, this album doesn't make sense. It's just very good. You're just gonna have to listen to it. Sorry. I'll try to explain why it's good. Hagia Sophia, first song. Starts with the IDM breakbeat, wobbly baritone synths. The only problem I have with this album sonically, sometimes the bass synths get a little farty. They get a little blurty in a way that I don't think. Usually they do really cool, interesting stuff with the bass synths. Usually the bass is the synth, and the drums are like an orchestra of percussion, but they are also electronic EDM beats playing with like breakcore beats, which is really cool to hear juxtaposed with these complex Indian rhythms. You can do incredibly complicated stuff melodically, rhythmically. If you listen to this album and you're bored, I don't understand what would make you not bored. There is so much going on. It is constantly evolving, like a single organism, just telling you this story, unfolding, this like sacred instrumental passage that's just like delivering to you a direct religious experience. Also, Perfect Prescription does this. This is why I'm ranking them together. They happen to also have 3 in the name. But it's not people who have 3 in the name are obsessed with spirituality. It's like people who understand spirituality put 3 in the name. Anyway, Hagia Sophia is fantastic. It has that breakbeat stuff, like your square pushers, your Aphex, your fucking Venetian snares. Then it becomes these bloops and breaks, but then back to the Middle Eastern guitar riff. There's unrelenting, just like Middle Eastern, Persian surf rock folk guitar. But it's constantly changing. The rhythm's constantly changing. The melody lines are constantly changing. Everything's not in 4. I don't think there's a thing in 4 except for there's one beat where they come in and it's just like 4 rock beat, but it doesn't stay that for very long. But anyway, Vajra starts in this weird rhythm. It's based on these riffs, these beautiful oud, sitar, banjo, treated violin, treated guitar, one of those 20 guitars I named. I don't know what. Playing these incredible different melodies and riffs, and then just like a playful kind of responding from the percussion, responding from the other instruments. It sounds like you're in some kind of alien ritual. It sounds like you're watching the Cantina Band from Star Wars in person, except they've been practicing for 100 years. So the Cantina Band fucking rules. And Secret Cheifs 3 is the Cantina Band of my dreams. I've seen them live. They're fucking incredible. Anyway, then they hit like a dubstep drop and it becomes this distorted thing. There's this, again, the washing machine is what I call it. When they put something through, it's just like, oh, you put a bunch of weird Pro Tools effects on this thing and now the sounds are over here and it's coming through this part and it's separated. They do that a bunch, where they shuffle electronically. It's like electronically they're playing percussive and melodic ideas as an additional layer to the infinite instrumentation, to the precise just string picking, or often string bowing, I guess is how you play a violin, with a bow. Anyway, grooves. The whole thing grooves. This whole thing is amazing. You could dance to it. You have to have a good sense of rhythm to dance to it, but you could. Ship of Full Stone of Exile is next. Has this ancient strumming with this unusual beat again. It's not 4. And then these pretty angelic, like female-sounding voices come in and do the melody that the guitars were playing. And this additional layer of rhythm, it mixes in, and it's this flawless interior world of sacred, ancient hymns that feel like they were forgotten or something, and they're being represented to you. Horsemen of the Invisible starts with war drums, like snare. Then these violent organ stabs, then it settles into the Indian folk, the Persian surf psychedelia. I don't know how you would genreify this. I wouldn't want to genreify this. It borrows from everything in the way that Bungle does. But this borrows more heavily from things that are not Western, global North. These are borrowing from things that are ancient. These are borrowing from things that are African and Indian. And then juxtaposing that with like metal, like there's these stabs of electric guitar. Usually that's how the guitar is. The solos are usually on like sitar or violin, and the guitar is used more just like punctuate with these stabs of new little melody interjections, and creates these beautiful worlds. It's the Horseman of the Invisible is finally like a 4 on the floor IDM dance beat. Finally sounds like a normal beat. And the bass line gets really unusual, the synth bass. For a long time, it's great, it just kind of funks out, and then there's this long adventure with the string violin, banjo, treated, oud, one of the 30 instruments he's playing. Then they go seamlessly into this rigid rhythm and it's over. Combat for the Angel, beautiful composed music. It's like Indian, classical, jazz fusion. There's not much soloing, but it's moving through these rigid composed sections that complement the former composed sections and build and explore these ideas. Zulfikar 3 is violin melody over the electronic beat with rock guitar stabs. Then it goes through the Pro Tools car wash, I'm calling it. Some hidden race of forgotten sacred texture and proportion is guiding us through this celebratory, repetitive violin that's like an EDM sample of a violin line. And then there's formally like classical violin playing, and then it dissolves into Siege Perilous, which is a neatly classically structured violin piece with tasteful hand drum accompaniment, lush orchestration. There's hand cymbals, love a hand cymbal. Then you get the melody that fall apart, and it gets dark, and they rediscover the folky, playful. Anyway, Delorious Stroke starts out with a faint screaming noise, and then there's a fast 4/4 rock beat. Finally, you get rock. And groovy bass line, groovy synth bass joins the party. There's a cool rhythm switch. Then there's synth static walls and these electronic tricks, kind of going in a little car wash. Then the incredible composed rock sections that are complex. They remind me of Frank Zappa and Early Fish and Mahavishnu Orchestra, like my favorite all-time bands. They remind me a lot of that. They're making new music in a genre that people don't seem to care much about anymore, but is important to me. Blaze of the Grail is one of the best songs on the record. Anyway, Dolores Stroke neatly resolves with its composed section. Then the next song starts with strings and horns manipulated. This boingy, like dingy, like ding 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 is the riff. And then it's this lush, like Duke Ellington, Quincy Jones horn arrangement around it. But they're still doing the dingy 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 ding jam. And then there's like this sacred funk that develops. It's like this weird sacred soul funk from a forgotten whatever. Then Lapis Exilis and Lapis Basileus. Lapis Exilis and Lapis Basileus. Okay, so Exilis starts with naked sounding synth stab, violent IDM, alien chime, bump land. Finally, we get rock chords. They're echoed. There's a busier chain of chords. Then the synth bass goes on a journey. Violin, the beat shifts. It wasn't a beat yet, but it shifted. Then it became once it was a beat, it was over. Then it's more structured, like early Middle Eastern rhythms with electronic synth, hand percussion, steady drums. This amazing puzzle of rhythmic polyrhythm against a foundation of these clean violin, and then there's this dirty bass, this dirty breakcore electronic drums beneath. Batilius, the other Lapis. Now finally we get a calm wave of synth. Till the blurt bass, you get the fart bass coming back. And it's followed shortly by stacks of the classical violin with the dirty EDM, the guitar soloing. Safina starts out with the blurty synths, the rhythm guitar underneath, sax playing great, these classical composed sections, and drops into this really cool just funk groove. This is probably the most funky song on the entire record, is the closer. Just oozes, grooves. And then there's 3 minutes of silence. I'm not going to review 3 minutes of silence. Then these scary, echoey, distorted guitar lines play these perfect, cathartic guitar chord peak things for like, I don't know, 30 seconds. And it's over. That's Book M. Secret Cheifs 3. Equally great record. Equally religious experience record. More religious experience record for me personally. Is Spacemen 3 Perfect Prescription. The first thing I heard from Spacemen 3 was their early recording, Taking Drugs to Make Music to Take Drugs to. Because when you read a bunch of albums to download that people like, and one of them is called Taking Drugs to Make Music to Take Drugs to, and you're a drug addict, you get that record, and you do that. Perfect Prescription is like the clean version of taking drugs to make music. It's like, if you want to take drugs, this is the perfect prescription. There is a narcotic bliss the entire record. You feel like you're in this sacred space and being told delicately this very important spiritual guidance. This is where you hear the preview of what will become spiritualized, but it's still dirty, it's still strung out, so you get the best of both. And there's still that youthful abandon. The first song on this record and the second song on this record, I believe, are a rewriting of Take Me to the Other Side, the opener from Taking Drugs to Make Music. The wildness and the pulsatingness of it, they turn into Take Me to the Other Side and give it kind of more appropriate lyrics for it. The lyrics are great. Oh, come on, take me for a ride, take me to the other side. This just sounds like it could be on Funhouse by the Stooges. It sounds like it could be a Rocky Erickson song. Just great, amazing rock and roll. One of the best openers on any record ever. Period. Like, one of the great all-time openers. And then Walk with Jesus is the lyrics that are on Take Me to the Other Side on the first thing that I heard. I care enough about this song that I need to read. I walk with Jesus, and he would say, "Oh, you poor child, you ain't coming to me no way. You found heaven on earth, you're gonna burn for your sin. But I think I'll be good company down there with all my friends." That's an old Irish joke that my family used to say, that being good company down there with all my friends. Got around to thinking about what Jesus said to me, because if heaven's like this, then that's the place for me. It's such a good song. And they give it the graceful background it deserves. They don't just juxtapose the holy thing with just the wildness for the sake of it, like they do on the first recording. They kind of divide the wildness, and then they give you like a spiritual kind of breather in this way that they arrange it on Perfect Prescription, which is the perfect prescription for everybody. You should all listen to this record right now, start to finish. It is fantastic, and reliably will actually give you a direct religious experience, if you're interested in having one. After that is Ode to Street Hassle. This is a Peter song, not a Jason song. He kind of talks the lyrics. The lyrics, again, are about spirituality. And it's great. Ode to Street Hassle? Let me see if I have notes on Ode to Street Hassle. I've listened to this record so many times I barely took notes. Yeah, my notes amazing. Edison, tasteful production, genius lyrics. It's like a gospel, spiritual, twinkling, angelic guitar, nice bass groove. It's pure, joyful, simple, repetitive, drony. All the songs in this are kind of drony. They kind of lull you into this hypnotic state. Transparent Radiation is next. Ecstasy Symphony, Transparent Radiation. You get the narcotic, frolic blocks of warm wagon synths rescuing you for a few minutes before achingly lovely violin come in and adorn this drone blues. Then goes through this fulfilling chorus, and the chorus section, the lyrics are great. They rock out and solo for a bit. Sounds like a classic. I don't know. This is such a fulfilling progression. I don't know if it's circle of fifths. I don't know if it's just the way that these chords go into one another. It sounds like it's meant to be. It's like a great blues jam with just some tasteful string embellishments. Feels so good. There's a trippy groove. This is like far out, man. Hip dip. Trip. It's a fucking ridey, drony, hypnotic roller coaster ecstasy. Feels so fine. Takes me out of my mind. Feels so fine is so good. Just wholesome. Just winsome. Wonder. Willing. Winning. Tasteful. Complimentary, narcotic, comfortable, like new socks, like a new pair of socks. Just come down easy. Come down easy is just a great, good old-fashioned blues. Jam the fuck out. Easy groove, bass, organ. You got the funky guitar. 1987. All I want to do is get stoned. All I want for you to do is take my body home. That's just great blues lyrics. This whole song is great. Well, well, well. Come down easy. The verses are great. I don't need to read every verse. Call the Doctor is more rugged, riffy, scary sketch, dark spoken lyrics. Not in the ode way. The ode was a more kind of spiritual, optimistic thing. This is a darker, like he's warning you. Plain voiced. Sounds noir. This background in the sparse solo licks, it's like an unpracticed Hendrix. Like it has that wild abandon of the guitar just being attached to you of a Hendrix playing. It's just less chops. But it has that level of purity in the connection between the intention of the person and the instrument, and it comes through in this way that's glorious. And then around 2 minutes he digs into this progression and solos, and it infects the solo, feels like it infects the groove and shifts the tone. It goes into a new groove. They're building a jam underneath, continues to build as the record slowly fades out. And that is the end of Spacemen 3's magnum opus, Perfect Prescription. My favorite records by both of these bands are these two. You should listen to all of the records by both of these bands. These are two great bands. One of them is a criminally underrated band that's making amazing stuff, that's combining everything from jazz fusion to electronic music with such precision and beauty and so many great ideas. And they're still around. They're still touring and making new music. I don't understand why this band isn't more popular. Listen to Secret Cheifs 3. They are great. They're one of my favorite bands. Spacemen 3 are one of the greatest bands of all time. Period. Listen to Playing with Fire. It is just as good as this record. Listen to any Spacemen 3. Listen to Spiritualized. Listen to good music. That's all I want you to do. Anyway, we're at almost time. We're at 28 minutes. So I have 2 minutes. And what should I do with 2 minutes? I have to come up with it in the moment. That's the rule. I suppose I'll just read the lyrics to 3 as a magic number. That seems kind of gauche. I could say Hare Krishna. I could say all of the prayers. The prayers don't work. You need to hear it. You need to hear somebody who actually understands the transcendent. I don't personally. I believe these bands do, in a way. And they communicate that in an achingly gorgeous, impossibly sophisticated, just like a siren from God, just like direct spiritual experience recorded so that we have preserved for posterity this amazing compositional bliss.